Hi, Snoopy group. So we're back for another small group reading lesson. So this week we are actually going to go back to doing a making words lesson first. And then after that, we'll read our book together. We're going to read a book called The Stapler. So you can already be thinking about what you think is going to happen in our book called The Stapler. And you're going to get to be a little creative today because when we get done talking about our book and reading it, then you're going to go back to Seesaw just like you have been doing, but this time you get to be creative and you get to actually change the ending of the story. So you get to tell me, if you were the author, what would you do to make the story different, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I think you know what to do. And yes, Elin, I said all right. I think you know what to do with this, so go ahead and make sure that you have all of these letters ready to go. You can use magnetic letters, you can write them down and just tear or cut them apart, but just make sure that you have these ready and we'll get started with our making words lesson. Okay, so we're back again for another making words lesson. So remember, the most important thing is that you wait to make the word until I snap. That way you have a chance to figure out what sounds do you hear and what letters do you think you're going to move to make that word, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and get started because I know you guys already know what to do. All right, our first word has 2 letters in it, and it's the word bye. Now, this is different than if I'm talking about, like, if I say bye to somebody, like I'm waving bye. This is different. This is talking about, like, if I said that I'm sitting by something. So, like, if I said Elin is sitting by Penny and Tyrone, that's the kind of bye that I'm talking about. So everybody say bye. Like, I read a story written by Dr. Seuss. So that's another way that you could use the word. All right, so go ahead and see if you can make the word bye. And I'm going to give you a hint. Remember that sometimes there's a letter that sometimes makes that I or E sound. So if you look at our letters, we don't have the letter I up there. That's not a vowel that we have. But we do have a letter that sometimes makes that long and strong E or I sound, like in the word bye. So think about what letter would make that sound, then go ahead and make the word. All right, so if you remember, sometimes the Y can make that I or E sound. So we know that our word is going to end in that Y, that I sound. But first we hear the B, the B sound. So we spell the word bye, B-Y. All right, let's go ahead and do our next word. Our next word has 3 letters in it, and it's the word cry. Cry. Like, I hate to see other people cry. Everybody say cry. All right, see if you can go ahead and move those letters around to make the word cry. All right, so let's take a look. So I hear a blend at the beginning of that word. I hear cr, cr. So I hear that C, that k, k, but then I also hear that R, that cr. So we don't want to just say cr, we want to blend them together and say cr. And then we know from our first word that the Y sometimes makes that I sound. So now we have the word cry, C-R-Y. I don't know if you remember, but before the break, I talked a lot about how every word has to have a what? A vowel. Every word has to have a vowel. But look at our word cry and think about the word bye that we just made. Did it have a vowel in it? Did it have A, E, I, O, or U? It didn't. So that's why when I say that, I'll say every word has to have a vowel or a vowel sound. So like in this word, there's not an actual vowel in that word, but that Y is going to make that vowel sound. So that's why when I say every word has to have a vowel or a vowel sound, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about when I say that it may not have a vowel, but it does make that I, that vowel sound with the Y, okay? All right, so here's our next word. Our next word has 3 letters in it, and it's the word dry. Dry. Listen, dry. So sometimes when we talk, we might say it a little differently, but if I really stretch it out, then I'm going to say dry, dry. So everybody say dry. Like the opposite of wet is dry. All right, go ahead and see if you can make the word dry. All right, let's take a look. So I actually hear the same ending sound. I hear that right at the end, but what I hear differently is that beginning sound. So sometimes when we say it, we don't really hear that dr, like we have to really stretch it out and almost say it differently than how we normally do to hear that blend at the beginning, but I do hear it. I hear that dr, dr. So sometimes you just have to stretch it out a little bit differently than how you would say it. So we have dry, and again, no vowel, but what letter is making that vowel sound? The Y, good. All right, so we spell dry, D-R-Y. All right, let's take a look at a new word. Our next word has 3 letters in it, and it's the word day. Day, I'm gonna give you a hint. There's a hunk and chunk that we practiced that has that A sound or makes the A sound. So I'm gonna give you a hint. A, hey, do you want to play? Swish, score, hooray. There's my hint. Okay. Like the day was so warm, we went to the zoo. Day. Everybody say day. All right, go ahead and see if you can make the word day. All right, so if you remember that hunk and chunk, that's really going to help you with this word. So I don't know about you, but I still hear that D sound at the beginning, just like we had in the word dry. But this time I hear D, A. And I'm looking at our letters that we have and thinking about that hunk and chunk that I just mentioned. And I know my word is going to have a vowel. And I know that A-Y hunk and chunk makes that A sound. So I think day is spelled D-A-Y. Hopefully that's what you got too. If you didn't, go ahead and move those around and fix it. But good job. Let's do our next word. Our next word has 3 letters in it. And this word, actually the next 2 words are a name. So think about what are we going to do. Now, yours may not be like this and mine aren't, but I want us to think in our heads what it would look like if we were writing it or if we had this kind of letter. But when it's a name, then it's a proper noun, a specific noun. Then think about what do we want to do with that first letter? We want to do what? We want to capitalize it, right? Now, it's okay if you don't have a capital letter. That's okay, but we just want to remember as we're making it that normally we would put a capital letter at the beginning of that word, all right? So our word is Ray. Like Ray loves to play with his trucks. Ray. Everybody say Ray. All right, go ahead and make the word Ray. All right, so let's take a look. So I hear the same hunk and chunk, right? Just like in D, A, I hear R, A. So I think the only thing I'm gonna change is that beginning sound from the D to the R sound. And again, we normally would capitalize that and make it a capital R, but since I don't have that magnetic letter here at my house, we're just gonna pretend, okay? And you can do the same if you need to. So we spell Ray, R-A-Y. Good job. All right, so our next word again is another name. So think about what are we gonna do with that first letter? Our new word has 3 letters in it, and it's the word K. Like sometimes I call my friend Katie K for short or like a nickname. So everybody say K. All right, go ahead and see if you can make that word K. All right, so again, I still hear that A-Y hunk and chunk at the end. The only thing that I hear that's different is that beginning sound. So instead of that R, I actually hear that that K sound. So we spell K, K-A-Y. And remember, normally we would make that a capital K, but we're just gonna pretend for now, okay? All right, our next word actually has 4 letters in it. And our new word is dark. dark. Now, I hear another hunk and chunk, but it's a different one than our A hunk and chunk. I don't hear the A sound in this word. I hear a different hunk and chunk. So like I would say when it gets dark outside, I can see the lightning bugs, or maybe you call them fireflies. So everybody say the word dark. All right, see if you can go ahead and move those letters around to make the word dark. All right, so remember, I hear in the middle of that word a hunk and chunk. I hear d-ark. I hear a beginning sound, I hear a hunk and chunk in the middle, and then I hear another sound at the end. So let's stretch that out. So I hear first that d sound. So I know it's going to start with a D. Then I hear a hunk and chunk. What hunk and chunk do we hear? A-R, R-R-R, d-ark. So I'm going to make that hunk and chunk, A-R. And then at the very end of my word, I hear the k sound, ark. So I know my word is going to end in a K. So we spell dark, D-A-R-K. So remember that hunk and chunk for the next word. That's my hint, okay? Our next word is bark. Like my dog likes to bark really loud. Everybody say bark. All right, go ahead and make the word bark. All right, so now all I hear that's different is that beginning sound. I don't hear that D sound anymore. I hear that B sound. So we spell bark, B-A-R-K, and we still have that A-R hunk and chunk in the middle of the word. All right, our new word still has 4 letters in it, and it's the word back, back. Now this one's a little bit trickier because there's 4 letters in it. So if I'm stretching it out, I hear b-ack. I only hear 3 sounds. So I'm gonna give you a hint. There are 2 letters that you have that both make the k sound. Think about what 2 letters both make that k sound, and you're actually gonna use both of those letters, okay? That's my little hint. Everybody say back. Like the opposite of front is back. All right, see if you can make the word back. All right, so let's take a look. This one was a little bit trickier. Now I know it still starts with that B sound, b, and I hear b-ah. I still hear that A, that short A sound, but now I hear the k sound. Now I could go, oh, okay, the C I know makes the k sound, but I know my word has 4 letters in it, so I'm missing something. So actually there is another hunk and chunk, that C-K hunk and chunk, where both of those letters make the k sound, but when you put them together, they're only gonna make that sound 1 time. So I wouldn't say back, I would just say back, and that's gonna make that 1 k sound, okay? All right, so we spell back, B-A-C-K. All right, our next word has 4 letters in it, and it's the word rack, rack. Everybody say rack. Like my pots and pans go on a rack. All right, go ahead and see if you can make the word rack. All right, so let's take a look. So I hear the beginning sound has changed definitely, but I still hear that ack ending sound. So I'm gonna leave that, and I'm just gonna move that R over, because now instead of the B sound, I hear the R sound. So now I hear ack. So we spell rack, R-A-C-K. Very good, just a couple more words. Our next word has 4 letters in it, and it's the word yard. So go back to a hunk and chunk that we used before, and I hear it in the middle of that word. Yard, yard. Like my dad always mows our yard. Everybody say yard. All right, go ahead and make that word yard. All right, so let's take a look. So I hear the y, that Y sound to start with. And then I hear a hunk and chunk in the middle of that word, one that we used before. I hear that R, that A-R hunkin' chunk. And then I hear a sound at the end, yard. I hear that D sound. All right, so we spell yard, Y-A-R-D. Very good. All right, so we have a mystery word. Can you figure out what it is? It's going to include all 8 of our letters. So think about it. What do you think it is? All right, so if you guessed the word backyard, you are right. So like when I was little, I loved playing with my brother in our backyard, which is true. So go ahead and say the word backyard. All right, go ahead and make the word backyard. All right, so let's take a look. So I still hear the word yard in there, so I'm gonna leave that. But I know I hear the word back in front of it. It's a compound word. That means it has 2 words that you put together and it makes a brand new word, which is really cool. But I still need to make that first word. So I hear b, and then I remember that my CK, hunkin' chunk, makes that k sound. So now we spell backyard, B-A-C-K-Y-A-R-D. So make sure that you have that. If you don't, go ahead and fix it. And man, that last word was a little bit of a challenge, but you guys did it. Nice job. So now let's read a book together. All right, so today we're going to read a book called The Stapler. And I know that our Making Words lesson was a little bit longer than it normally is. So if you need to pause the video and take a break and come back to it and read our book later, then that's totally fine, okay? But I'm going to try to make this a little bit shorter than I normally do with our book, since I know that our Making Words lesson was a little bit longer. So go ahead, take a look, make a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in our story? And then we'll get started. Okay, so on this page, there's a word in the last sentence that is kind of a tricky word because we say it a lot differently than how we would stretch it out. And it also starts with that SC blend where we normally would say sk, but in this case, we actually don't. We're going to say just the S sound. But one strategy that I want you to use with this word, if you did get stuck on it, is Skippy Frog. Because if I go back and I read, if I get stuck on that word that starts with the S, so if I read, he uses Grandpa's pens, if I skip that word and I keep reading and I think about what would make sense in that sentence, then it kind of helps me figure out what that word is. So if I skip it and I say tape and stapler, okay, let me go back. He uses Grandpa's pens, tape, and stapler. Well, if he's using pens, tape, and stapler, well, I know something else that would make sense in that group is scissors, and that starts with an S, and that kind of looks like it could be the word scissors. So let me see if that makes sense. He uses Grandpa's pens, scissors, tape, and stapler. I think that makes sense. So always remember to use your strategies. I don't want anybody to just tell you the word right off the bat. I want you to figure it out on your own. Even if it takes you a few minutes to figure it out, that's okay. Uh-oh. Derek lost the stapler. I don't know if you predicted that that was going to happen, but if you did, good job. One thing that strong readers will always do when they're reading is ask questions. So they will ask questions before you read. They'll ask questions while they're reading, and then they'll ask questions after they read. So right now in the middle of our book, a question that I have is, what is Derek going to do now that he's realized that he lost the stapler? So you may have the same question, but go ahead and pause the video and tell somebody sitting close to you or just think in your head, what questions do you have now that we've read the first few pages of our book? Okay, guys, so I know that our book time was a little bit shorter. I didn't pop in as much, but our Making Words lesson was a little bit longer than it normally is, and so I wanted to make sure that our book time was a little bit shorter this time. But I hope you enjoyed our book, The Stapler, and now you get to be creative. So now you get to go back to Seesaw and you get to tell me, if you were the author, how would you make the story different at the end? So maybe you wouldn't have Derek go to Grandpa. Maybe Derek wouldn't even lose the stapler. Maybe it would be something else that Derek lost. Maybe something totally different happened, and it didn't even have anything to do with a stapler. So you get to decide, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. So make sure that you turn that in on Seesaw, and then we'll be back next week for another book and another either Making Words, or we might do another El Conan boxes or sound boxes. So I'll see you then.